let me ask you a question. Let's say, from this point on, every movie that came out was about Spider-Man. Blue and green Spider-Man, boy and girl Spider-Man, alien Spider-Man, everything Spider-Man. How long would it take before Hollywood went out of business? It's a silly question, but it brings up a real issue. Because this century we've had 3 Hulks, 2 Fantastic Fours, 3 Punishers, 2 Batmen, and now our 3rd Spider-Man. So how many reboots would it take for us to stop watching? Well, the first answer might be that it'll happen when the movies stop being good, which is pretty much inevitable. After all, there's more ways to make a bad movie than a good one. But Marvel has mostly avoided this. So how long can it last if the movies never stop being good? Well, I'm here to tell you that they'll still fall off, even if they're all amazing. After all, when was the last time you saw Shakespeare? But let me explain. First of all, many people do still watch Shakespeare, centuries after it was written, and many people do still read comics today, even though they're the same characters. So, good concepts and good execution can keep some amount of people coming forever. But here's the thing. The movie business is actually different, and that's what I want to talk about. Because in movies, you cannot use the same concept forever and survive. Unlike any other form of entertainment, things must constantly change. So why is that? Well, it's about money. The cost to make a blockbuster movie is far, far higher than a play or book. This means that you need far more people to see it for the movie to be successful. And that means that the movie has to have much more emotional impact on the average person. Which means that the emotional impact of the movie itself must be helped by the emotional impact of things outside of it. In this case, that means 2 things, and I'll try to say this as clearly as I can. The things that come into play here are the novelty, how different the movie is from what the audience has seen, and the confirmation, how the movie's existence validates what they want to believe. Now, with most entertainment, you'll never hear about this, because the creators don't have to know about it. Because there's a small group of people for whom these things are just naturally there, and they're enough to make you profitable. Like for example with print comics. Most of their audience is very young people, and for that small group, everything is equally new, so they just watch the one that's most appealing. And Spider-Man and other characters like him have developed over years to be the most appealing, so they can rely on that small segment of the population to always keep them in business. Likewise, there's always people who like to feel like they're getting the best. Not in how it's made, but in the feeling of respect that comes from it. So these people watch things like Shakespeare because it makes them feel smart and like they're around smart people, which is fine. Now, that feeling is the same one we get from seeing a hero win. But it's even stronger since it's totally real, and it can go on top of what the story itself makes you feel. So, for these people, everything that's older or has a good reputation carries that feeling with it. And they just choose the one that's actually written the best. And that, of course, is Shakespeare. And Shakespeare stays alive due to that group of people. So, in each of those cases, there's a small number of people who will buy that entertainment without the creators having to worry about the external factors. But, and here's the thing, there's only enough of those people to support a smaller play or print book. When we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars and need $1 billion back, we need something that will create those outside feelings for far more people. Which means that the 2 big ones in this case, novelty and the personal validation, have to come in a different way. And here's what it is. When comics go from page to screen, the novelty comes from seeing those characters in real life, which is there for everyone who liked the comic books. Meaning not just the kids reading now, but all the adults who read the comics when they were kids. You've got something new for everybody who ever liked Spider-Man. This is why people used to go crazy for leaked pictures from the movie sets. But naturally, as you do more of these movies, this fades. You can only make up for it in a small way with the villains. And someone at Marvel Studios knows this, since even though Spider-Man Homecoming was a reboot, they still used a villain we hadn't seen before. But as time goes on, you inevitably run out of characters who have that familiarity. so this must fade. Likewise, validation isn't just about feeling smart or respected, but also feeling like good people have good things happen for them.
Push the tempo, crash the boards. You do those things, gentlemen, and I guarantee you, at the end of the game, we will be there.
Which can appeal to everyone. And you can attach this to movies through the actor you cast. In comics, there's nobody playing Spider-Man, and most people don't know the artist. So this is pretty unique to movies. The interest over who will get to play the character next and what type of person they are and how they'll do is its own external story that can be constantly renewed as more movies are made and new actors are cast. This is how James Bond has lasted so long. But here's the thing. Wondering who will be cast and how they'll do is just a short-term feeling. It makes us pay attention, but only because something else important might happen. If it doesn't, we lose interest. So, to actually turn that interest into other good feelings, to have that actor become someone we care about, they need time. After all, people still love Christopher Reeve as Superman, while Brandon Routh didn't get a chance. And thus, if you're constantly rebooting and changing franchises, you lose the personal attachment and burn out your viewers. So, in an overall sense, no matter how good the current generation of comic movies are, there are probably limits on how long it can last. At least as big-budget films. Which means that, eventually, the movie business is going to be forced in a different direction. There are a few different ways this can go, but there's one specific one I find really interesting, which, if done right, could create its own new era in movies. But we'll talk about that later. Until then, thanks, like this video if you did, and subscribe.